Hi, welcome to Everbox Guitar Tuition. So today's classic album inspection is Iron Maiden's Powerslave, released September the 3rd, 1984. So it's 40 years old today. Wow. So this is the album that really cemented Maiden as one of the premier, if not the premier metal act, and it laid the foundations, I think, for the Maiden we have today, and their position as a global metal act, and one of the greatest and most influential metal bands of all time. So again, they went to Compass Point Studios in Nassau to record. Laid down more music this time. So when I did the review of Peace of Mind last year, I forgot to mention that was kind of 45 minutes long. So they're starting to push how much they can fit on the vinyl, and then this album's 51 minutes. I remember when it came out, that was like unheard of, having a single album 51 minutes long, really. So they're starting to push out on the arrangements and stretch out. Basically, I think when the band got off the road from Peace of Mind, they had 3 weeks off, and then they went to La Chalet Hotel, which is in Jersey, probably for tax reasons. Like the album before, they rehearsed and wrote there. I'm guessing they went to the studio with 7 tracks. I'm not sure, but I think Rime of the Ancient Mariner was actually put together pretty quickly, which is fairly remarkable when you consider what it's like, the piece of music, but we'll come to that. The first thing you notice with this album, it's a better sound. It's their best sounding album up to this point. It's got the kind of warmth of Number the Beast. It's got the heaviness of Peace of Mind, but it's got the punch, of Killers and the grit, and it's got clarity. It's got a really good sound. It captures the band really well. Opens with Aces High, and I think the band lays out the stall on this. This is one of the fastest tracks I've done up to this point. Great vocal by Bruce on this, and phenomenal vocal harmonies in the chorus. And I think that's something that comes along here on this album that you notice is Bruce, he's been doing harmonies on choruses, but on this album he really nails it. All the pitching's spot on. It's powerful, the way the vocals are separated. So the choruses manage to be anthemic, powerful and catchy. And Bruce gives an amazing account of himself on this album. So it's 4 minutes 31, like I say. Again, cool trade-off on the solos. Again, Smith and Murray really starting to be in sync. I think that's the thing you notice with the album. They've made the album with Nico. They've done the whole tour of Peace of Mind. The whole band's gelling here. Steve Harris, he's sitting his bass in gaps. He's kind of going into space when he can and out of space when he doesn't feel he needs to. Smith and Murray's guitar styles really gelling. They do some really cool intricate harmony stuff. Bruce is zenith and Nico's firing away, and this track captures that really. The next tune, 2 Minutes to Midnight, again this shows the benefit of having Adrian Smith as a writer in the band. If it wasn't for Smith, you wouldn't really get songs like this. It's not a typical Maiden track. Got a great bridge and chorus. The whole song builds. Fantastic harmonies again. Really good lead break, particularly by Adrian Smith. The way he does that last a little pinched harmonic run into that really dun 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 dun, slow gallop in the middle bit. Really good, real classic Maiden track. So this album opens with 2 classics. What I've described this album of is it's a metal sandwich. You have 2 tracks opening, 2 tracks finishing, which are like the artisan bread, and then you have the filling, which is nice, but not as nice as the artisan bread, but it's still good. So next track's Lost for Words. This is the last instrumental Maiden did. So it's the first one since Genghis Khan Ides of March on the Killers album. This is good. It's not as good as those tracks. It's not as good as Transylvania, but it is good. It's kind of different. It's a little more riff based, kind of like Transylvania. It has cool harmony lines. It's 4 minutes 15. It's not as memorable, I think, but when you hear it, it is a good track. Now, it's end of side. No, it's not the end of side 1. Track 4 is Flash of the Blade. Now, I've said, the tracks on either side are the best in the filling, but I do think this is a great cut. So I think it's a Smithy riff. It's got a really cool open pull-off riff. Again, something a little different. It's 4 minutes 5. Great chorus by Bruce, obviously taking up his fencing. Really cool. And it's got a cool, quite a neoclassical sort of solo in it. Like I said, the harmony interplay is more intricate on this. Again, the band's doing the thing that they did on Peace of Mind, where they're putting in lengthy instrumental sections. So sometimes these solos will last a minute. Again, if you're playing it live, it means Bruce can take a break, and that's going to help Bruce still be Bruce, you know. Then you've got the Duelist 618, so again fencing, sword play, but it's from the Ridley Scott film, The Duelist. If you've not seen that, Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, very good. This has got like a Tool sort of 12/8 riff. BVs, yeah, it's got some interesting BVs on the chorus. But the intro, the middle section's kind of 3 minutes. You know, so it's quite long, and again, it's that thing I was saying, you know, Bruce doesn't have to sing for 3 minutes if they're playing it live. I'm not sure if they're playing it live, but people would know more than me. Yeah, it's a good album track. And that was side one, so quite unusually you got 5 tracks on side one and then 3 tracks on side two. Then you've got Back in the Village next. So this is my least favourite track on the album, but it's pretty cool. Again, it's got a cool kind of open string riff, and Smithy, I'm guessing, does a cool pinch harmonic, which is quite unusual. We don't really hear that much in Maiden. So it's revisiting the Prisoner lyrics, the idea of Number 6 being back in the village, if you've seen that show. Quite unusual lyrics on this, he's going about the kitchen and stuff like that, you know, because Number 6 gets drugged in the kitchen. So like I say, an interesting track. Then it finishes with not only probably the 2 best tracks on the album, these could be, you know, certainly of the Bruce era, I would argue these are 2 of the best ever Bruce tracks. So they go all that epic on the title track, Powerslave. And unusually, this brings in a real Middle Eastern flavour. So it's building on To Tame a Land, which kind of flirted with that, but it goes all in on this. You know, kind of bringing in sort of Rainbow and Deep Purple influence, I guess, from Richard Blackmore. Really good. Bruce is the writer on this, I think. Really cool lyric. The chorus on this, again, it shows like where Bruce is going. You know, he's doing this really cool dramatic chorus, but it's got his amazing tracked harmonies in the back, and it just sounds epic. It's just, you know, it just feels like the sounds of Maiden's like really, you know, something's coming together. So I love this track. Again, you know, it's got a lengthy, cool solo, lengthy instrumental section. This is a popular track with musicians and bands. And you got Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, so this is the 13-minute 45 epic. It's kind of got 3 movements, really. You've got the main riff, which is a kind of mid-tempo gallop. Really cool chorus. Then they do something really bold in the middle. It breaks down. Harry's kind of playing an augmented shape. So for the musicians out there, it's a root, a major third, and a sharp 5. And I think it does move down 1 fret or 2 frets. And that just creates this little theme, and then they've got the sounds of creaking wood and the sea, which would be cheesy, but it works really well. And then they do this really nice whole tone melody on the guitars. I don't know whether the guitarists were aware of that. That kind of fits in over the chord. So the whole tone scales literally on the guitars 2 frets, 2 frets, 2 frets again. And that's it. It just repeats that. So it's used by Impressionist composer Debussy. Favoured it, so it kind of works for this. Debussy would use a whole tone scale to kind of mimic nature. Imagine waves lapping up against the shore, and then he would do the whole tone scale very fast, and it just creates that mood. So I'm guessing, you know, utilising that. I think it is the whole tone scale, so it could be wrong. Yeah, it's really cool. You know, breaking down in the middle like that, it works, and then it kind of does this cool boom, doom, 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 and it goes into another movement, top Harry bass, and then it breaks back down into the original part. I'd say if I got a criticism, I'd say the end, it maybe goes on a bit long. I maybe could have cut the end, but like I said at the start, it was written in quite a rush. So maybe, you know, if I had more time, I maybe would have trimmed it a bit. But you know, it's an all-time classic Maiden. But at this point, I don't think a metal band had done a song this long. Obviously, Rush had done songs the last of the side, but they would have different sections in them and would be broken down. This is just one song, even though you could say it's got 3 movements. In fact, does it say that on the vinyl? Maybe it does. But Rush of progressive rock, you know, hard rock. I mean, a metal band. Yeah, this is a long one. So, like, yeah, this album for Maiden, it builds on Peace of Mind. It goes platinum quicker. I'm not sure. I forget which chart placing is. I didn't put it down. I think Peace of Mind made 14 in the US and number 3 in the UK. This made number 2, I think. Maybe 17 in the US, but it was bigger. this album felt bigger. You know, Maiden were getting front covers. The stage set's incredible, with the you know, the album cover, and then the way they were reproduced it on stage. Of course, this was the tour they did the Live After Death album on, and Live After Death video, which are beloved of Maiden fans, but also the last classic live album. Really, I think. You know, there's a couple I like after that, but Worldwide Live's 1985 as well. I think that's very good, but the live album becomes a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Slightly redundant thing, because the production, you know, can't match the original recordings. Where you're still at that point in the 80s where a live recording might sound better than the studio. So it really captures that album. The video recaptures Maiden at the time. They went to 28 countries. It was 11th month tour. They were like the first band to go behind the Iron Curtain, and they did Rock in Rio. But these were things that set up Maiden, and they were really savvy. Again, Rob Smallwood, they've just been so savvy doing that, because they probably looked at Queen going out into South America, and yeah, you're going to take a bath going to Eastern Bloc. Remember the exchange rate. You know, they're not going to make money, but it's like, it's potential territory. Things could change. You know. Maybe Rod Smallwood needs some, but didn't. But I think other bands later on would go to these countries, but Maiden got in there early. When the war goes down, you know, they've already got the audience, and once things, you know, sort themselves out, they can go in and do the big shows. But the other thing is, it set themselves up for when things went lean. So after Fear of the Dark, which I think's nearly Golden America, I mean, things were going a bit leaner then. That was no prayer for the dying. It's a terrible record, but after that, you know, Bruce leaves, but they get blazing. But I'm imagining Maiden can still play, you know, in other territories and do pretty well, and it just keeps things going. And then when they get Bruce back, they're sort of positioned correctly to kind of upscale things again and take their place as like a legacy band. And you know, apart from Metallica, the biggest metal band. Yeah, so they really did the right move there. So like I say, everything about this album felt bigger. When it is Somewhere in Time, I mean, again, that was big. It was a big cover. It was a big album. I mean, it sold probably as well as this, but the album, the production, it's a mishmash. You know, it's got 4 or 5 really cool tracks on that, but it's got some pretty bad ones, and the production's washing. I was never a Seventh Son fan. I mean, those first 5 Maiden albums, and this, you know, coming to the end of that with Live After Death, it just envelopes that whole era of Di'Anno into Bruce for me. The only other thing to say is, I think Bruce, you know, stakes his claim for the metal vocalist, certainly of 84, 85. You know, on this album with the tour, with athleticism, I mean, you've got like Halford turning in Defenders of the Faith, Dio turning last in line, and the young whippersnapper Jeff Tate doing the Warning. But I think at this point you have to give Bruce his due. You know, with what he was doing on stage, with what he did on this album, with getting his, you know, his pitch and spot and his harmonies, the drama, you know, everything he was doing. You know, I think Bruce absolutely, you know, he rules the metal vocalist roost at this particular point. But obviously the other vocalists mentioned that, and I think with Bruce, those are the holy 4, aren't they? For me, anyway. Okay, so Powerslave, not Power Age. That's another great album. Powerslave is 40 years old today. I still remember looking at the vinyl, and it's been great to listen to. A really, really strong record. Cheers, thanks very much. See you soon.